So most of you have probably heard of Riverdale, and if not, you've probably heard of the Archie comics. If you haven't heard of either of those, what rock have you been living under? Anyways, if you've read the actual comics, then you know that Jughead Jones is not straight. His sexuality is aromantic, and he is asexual. This has been a major part of his character, and since the Archie comics started in the 1940s, where he has always joked about his lack of attraction towards women, favoring to eat food over care about relationships. However, the word asexual was never used in the comics until 2015, when Kevin Keller mentions in Jughead issue number 4, "You would now be hard-pressed to open an issue of one of the new Archie comics and not find some pun about his asexuality." However, when the TV show Riverdale started in 2016, it became clear rather quickly that Jughead was not ace. About halfway through the first season, Betty and Jughead become a couple, and by the end of the season, they become close to having sex before they are interrupted. So definitely not ace or arrow. This is called queer erasure. This is a big problem, and Riverdale isn't the first show to be guilty of that. Queer characters are incredibly uncommon, and that can be very negative and have a lot of different side effects. So when books, movies, or TV shows either don't include or kill off the queer characters without much screen time, it's a problem. I've dug through countless books, and definitely less than 5% of those I have read in the past year include LGBTQ plus characters at all. And that's actually an improvement from the past. And debatably, the most relevant one, Batwoman isn't even allowed to marry her very canon, very serious girlfriend. They got engaged, but did not end up having a wedding. They are still engaged to this day, but no wedding in sight. More representation could lead to more acceptance of queer community. A lack of queer characters also can lead to negative effects for people who are questioning. It could lead people to think there's something wrong with them, and that can easily be solved if more people actually had an opportunity to learn about the part of the LGBTQ plus community that would make up the plot. Honestly, if anyone just learned a little bit more about other groups, we could have quite a bit more tolerance in the world. But in the meantime, try to be informed. Even if the media isn't helping in portraying some fake universe where everyone is homosexual or cisgender, you can still do your best just to be a bit more aware. I want there to be a day where people can just come out, and it won't be just some gigantic vocab lesson. Also, on a somewhat unrelated note, did you know that the A in LGBTQ originally stood for ally? And the National Coming Out Day website gives no mention to so many gender identities and sexuality, but they definitely remember to mention that you can come out as an ally. Like, what are you going to say? Hey, I don't know how to say this, but I'm a decent person because I think people should have the same treatment regardless of their sexuality or gender identity. But because this day isn't already centered around cis-het people, I'm here to make it about me. Like, no. The National Day of Coming Out, not make everything about cis-het people day. Almost everything is already about cis-het people. You can have your day when you're afraid to tell your parents who you love or walk into the streets with your partner holding hands. Like the idea of a gay best friend in a lot of TV shows, which is actually geared towards straight girls. Or to back my original point, almost every form of media there is. So when I was writing this on Google Docs, I remember there was an Explore feature on Google Docs, which lets you look at Google results related to the topic at hand. One of the results came up was apparently speculation that Bughead may actually become a real thing in the comic. So to put it simply, I'm mad. Or this could be an elaborate plot to let Jughead come out of the closet, even if he's ace. He may still be the type of person who would open up to sex, since asexual attraction and sex aren't mutually exclusive. And they happen to be interpreted before they do have sex, because it isn't set in stone that he's straight. A lot of people justify queer by saying that because that there are one or two characters in a story, they represent the entire LGBTQ plus community, and that the LGBTQ plus community is asking too much for more representation or for certain parts of the LGBTQ community to be represented more. Another problem that arises with lack of queer representation is that sex ed is geared towards cis-het people, which may cause a lot of problem for queer teens who don't know how to have safe sex, which they may need to know at some point. But because we live in such a heteronormative society, LGBTQ plus kids get let out when it comes to stuff they may need to know eventually. This may be an elaborate rant, but either way, we're shook.